Is the power sword really bad? So me and a couple of buddies last night were trying to do lethal missions for the helmet because he really wants it, but it's been super laggy due to the storm sitting on the mountains where the cell towers are, and that messes with the internet for some reason. Okay. Little geographic lesson there, but I get it. It's only internet when clouds or storms hover over that set of mountains. Anyways, I was a Bulwark and he was a Vanguard, and I was using the power sword the whole mission and was even the last brother standing and had to fight all 6 majors and a bunch of minorists in the mission. Decapitation. Ooh, okay, that's a good operation. Dude, I really enjoyed decapitation. I need to do an operation tier list. One day I'll get to it. It just popped into my head. But he still outdid me in melee damage by almost 6,000, so that led me to think that, is the power sword just bad in terms of damage? Who did though? Like just one of your teammates? Was it? If they outdid your damage by 6,000, I bet you it's an assault class, because it feels like a wet poodle noodle to majorist and a dull knife to minorist, since it takes 3 power swipes to kill on ruthless. Oh boy! All right, a lot to unpack there. Let's ignore the mountain stuff and here's the thing. So I think they said they were, well, obviously they're using the power sword, so they're playing Bulwark. And here's the thing. I feel like the power sword is turning into a bit of a fencing tool, unfortunately. There's a perk on Chainsword that I really, really enjoy that you can get pretty early in the perk tree, in the weapon mastery tree, or however you want to call it. And the same perk is basically way deeper into the power sword perk tree. So I'm definitely leaning towards the Chainsword being my new lethal Bulwark weapon, basically just because of how much easier it is to use. Yeah, the damage on the power sword, it can be bad, it like can be, but I bet you had low melee damage because you're using the power sword mostly just to, do gun strikes. Which, I mean, that's fine, but you can do the same thing with the, with the power fist or the Chainsword. The one thing that's getting on my nerves with the power sword is switching between modes during a battle. Essentially, you're using a frame just to switch your modes, and you can get hit in that frame. There's a lot of attacks in general for melee that you can't really dodge out of, which is kind of annoying. I think the power sword is good with that situation. You can dodge out of a lot of the power sword's attacks because they're fast. That said, I do think the power sword should have a little bit of a damage buff, just so we can use the sword as an actual sword in lethal. Every other difficulty, it's fine in. I gotta be honest, ruthless you start to notice it, but in lethal, it is super apparent. The only thing you are using your power sword is basically fencing. You can't use blocking because blocking with Bulwark is very weird. The way they do the shield bashing and all that is if you're basically walking towards somebody, you can't shield bash unless you stop, put up your shield, and do the shield bashing. So Bulwark kind of has the same thing going on with blocking, where you can block, but sometimes you'll block with your shield, which isn't the same mechanic because you can't turn your shield around like the combat knife, how you can pretty much block anywhere, at least within a 180 degree angle. The shield really only blocks projectiles. At least that's how it was designed. It was not designed to give the Bulwark a 180 spin block. So sometimes when you go to block, if you miss press, even by a frame or something, you will basically have whatchamacallit. You'll have a blind spot. Yeah, you'll have a blind spot and you can get hit. And in a mob situation where you're surrounded, blocking already isn't good, and with Bulwark it is even more janky in that situation. That said, I think if you are good enough with blocking, you can get out of mobs. I think blocking is very good. But a blocking power sword is just very, very janky. I can imagine the damage would be okay on it, but you still need the gun strikes for Bulwark. Bulwark has a really nice armor perk where if you get a gun strike, a non-lethal gun strike, you get your armor back. So yeah, I can see, I can see getting out damage on the melee card pretty heavily by an assault if you're just sitting there doing gun strikes with the power sword. So, does that mean it's bad? I'm gonna say no. It's a bad melee weapon. Honestly, I'd say it's better than the Power Fist. It's not better than the Chainsword, and it's not better than the Thunder Hammer, and it's not better than the Combat Knife. It is the second worst melee weapon as far as actual melee damage, I fear. Because honestly, it was one of my favorite weapons, but the more I'm playing lethal with it, the more I'm trying to just like hit people with melees. I'd rather just have a stomp, man. I'd rather just have a stomp. In certain situations, it's kind of a pain to switch over modes. You can get punished for it. And then if you're just like, if you just go through with it, like a lot of times I do, you'll notice in these operations, I'm swinging at this guy like 8 times. And he's not giving a melee attack or anything. Some of the sniper majorists, the Tyranids, will just walk back and just shoot you. Whereas a stomp would actually stun them most of the time. I'm not too sure if it stuns enraged. But yeah, it's unfortunate to say because I think the Power Sword was basically one of my first weapons that I ever relicked. It was like that and the Chainsword. And the thing is, I really enjoyed the Power Sword. I think it's a cool weapon. I genuinely think it needs a little bit of a buff. Same goes with the Power Fist. If the Power Fist gets a damage buff, so should the Power Sword. I think Chainswords are actually in a good spot. I think Combat Knives are in a good spot. Combat Knives have great stunning potential, which is crazy. And then, obviously, probably the best melee weapon in the game, the Thunder Hammer, I think is in a really good spot. I don't think it needs any damage buffs. It's just awkward to use, but there's actually a reason for it to be awkward to use because it hits very hard. The Power Sword, sometimes it just feels awkward to use just because situations can flip on a dime. It's just like, oh wow, I don't really need this mode right now. I wish I could switch, but I know as soon as I switch, I'm gonna get chip damage, and I really can't afford that. Like, sometimes lethal can get like that, so. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to go into some of the comments here. I had a lot to say about the Power Sword because, I've been playing Bulwark again. I've been trying out different things. And I think there is a interesting argument now about the Power Sword in lethal that I genuinely think the Power Sword does need a buff. Oh boy, I had a lot to say. Okay, let's go into the comments. Just for asking, but do you know about the modes? Powered for Minorist, turned off for Majorist. The powered attacks almost always gives you a free lock on shot for armor. No, I get that. It just annoys me that you have to switch to a certain mode for that when every other melee has that option. You know what I mean? It has the option for like a free gun strike that's easily accessible. Look, I guess maybe I'm being a little bit lazy here on switching the modes, but in lethal, sometimes during those mobbing situations, it's not just like, oh, here's the minorists that are just, secluded on their side, secluded on the side of a level, and then there's a one major over there. I'm just gonna go over there, attack the minorists, and then go over to the major, and between that, I'll switch my modes. No, normally it's like, okay, you're being attacked by 2 majors. Like, already the majors are already swarming you. How am I supposed to use the major mode if there's more of them? You know what I mean? And then there's also the minorists that are doing chip damage. So as soon as you switch over to the mode to do the thing it's supposed to do, you're getting chip damage, and then you have to go for a gun strike. Well, what if you're in the mode that doesn't do the instant gun strikes? You know what I'm saying? This is exactly the snowballing situation that happens in lethal, where I just feel like I'm thinking too much when all I really want to do is just stomp. Like, I just want to bring out the Chainsword, swing it, and stomp. That's all I want to do. You know what I mean? Like, stomps are really good in lethal. I don't know. I'm really starting to enjoy stomps. It's in a weird spot. Used well, it can be very good, but I still think it could use a small damage buff. Okay, I agree. I agree with this. I think it's situational. I wouldn't say used well, it can be very good. I think we all know, like, essentially, if you know the modes, I think, we know how to use it. I bet you it would be a sweet dueling weapon if, like, PvP had, like, a 1v1. I bet you the Power Sword... Honestly, yeah. Wait, hold on. Obviously, the Power Sword is very strong in PvP, so... The Power Sword is good in PvP, so let's... Yeah. Let's... I really should have kept this PvE centered. I never... Well, it was, but I haven't played PvP in a long time. Even though I played... So the thing is, I haven't used a Power Sword in a long time. I played PvP on console, but I'm not leveled up enough for the Power Sword. I think I just got it. But yeah, regardless, I used to go off with the Power Sword on PvP. I'm excited for the PvP update, so I will be bringing it back out, obviously. But yeah, it's way stronger in PvP than it is in PvE. Just wanted to clarify that. Yeah, I can see it getting a small damage buff for PvE. Specifically, just so it's more balanced for higher difficulties. That's basically it. Get down the pause slam attack, and the power sword is amazing. Everybody forgets that move is there. It has the most fluid combination, is the most versatile with its stance change. Stick with it, get it to higher tiers. You'll thank me later. Yeah, I like the power sword combos. I just think sometimes, like specifically for higher difficulties, sometimes spinning around and jumping in the air can get you in trouble. And I don't know. I do think this dude does have a point. Like, it is versatile, but I just feel like sometimes that works against the weapon because you'll be in situations where it's like you're not in the mode that you want, or you're basically just not doing enough damage. Like, it really depends. It really depends. But yeah, for lethal, I just think something more consistent works better than being versatile, basically. That said, I do like that attack, and I like to use the weapon. I know I'm getting really... I'm giving Power Sword a lot of criticism in this video, but I do like the weapon. It's just, I think it needs to do more damage. I diehard believe the Power Sword is better than Chainsword for clearing hordes. This dude's crazy. You have to hit a 4-hit combo to get the stomp. No, well, I guess, yeah, 4-hit combo, but with blocking, it's very fast. And not to mention the Chainsword already has a good amount of impact, that the initial swings are doing more damage than the Power Sword as far as mob clears. Its most powerful attack. With the Power Sword, it's a 2-hit combo regardless of stance to get the same. I mean, potentially, can't you just like do a running attack, get into the stance, and then do the spinning jump attack? I mean, dude, honestly, it's strong. But yeah, I still like the stomp. And I like the stomp for a reason because of the Chainsword's perk layout. I'll get into that in a different video, but basically the gist is the Chainsword has a perk that's perfect for Bulwark, where when you get the stomp off, the enemies do less damage. Now, this is something I've been trying with the Power Sword, but I just feel like the stomp does a better job at clearing out enemies than the Power Sword version of the same perk, which is more of like a dueling charge attack, basically. It's the Power Rake, which somebody in the comments definitely corrected me on that, which is nice because I was a tad bit confused, but I used to use Power Rake quite a bit, so I still know the combos. But that said, I just think the stomp is better than Power Rake, so I'm willing to do the extra swing. And since, it's the Chainsword, it's doing pretty good damage. And you can spam it far faster and move across the map as you do. Okay, I guess. Yeah, that's fine. I think this is actually a good comment to kind of defend the Power Sword here. I'll give them that, for sure. But no, I think the Chainsword is better for clearing hordes, and probably also better for attacking single targets as well. Like, I don't know, it's just I'll get into that in the Chainsword video, the Bulwark Chainsword video. But that said, the Power Sword is undeniably way cooler. I'll give them that. Bulwark is a tank support healer, not DPS, which also, I just want to say, tank support healer is like my new favorite like archetype. It's a super cool idea. I mentioned in a past video that I played Rebirth and I just had Barrett fully specced out in like healing stuff, also with Aerith, so it was like, oh my god, we were getting a lot of heals off. But yeah, tank support healers, it's very cool. It's very cool. Not DPS. If Bulwark trying to DPS and neglecting support is the worst class in the game? Wow, okay. Holy cow. If Bulwark going full support is the Emperor's Angel. Okay, that's 0 to 100 there. All right, so yeah, maybe. I think a Bulwark going for DPS is better suited against Terminus enemies, right? Not so much as getting all the DPS in the entire operation. A DPS Bulwark has a pretty nice kit against Terminus enemies, but yeah, it's not going to do more damage than an Assault Slam or anything. Power Sword, turn on for Swarm. Each sweep knocks down every Minorus in front of you and gives you a Gun Strike, which gives an Armor Pip. Yep, yeah, I agree, but it's when you're surrounded by Minorus and also surrounded by Majors where this becomes an issue. Basically, Swarms are your bread and butter. Keep them busy and don't let them push your Sniper or Heavy and let your DPS blast. 23, you got the single best perk in the game. Basically makes you a Medicae. Okay, so yes, Invigorating Icon. I love this perk. I feel like Invigorating Icon does a lot to clear up, or at least it does a lot to clean up the shortcomings of Bulwark. So I do think suggesting this in this specific conversation isn't very, I mean, this person's obviously probably a new Bulwark, so, I mean, that helps, but it's like, Invigorating Icon is probably, you know, it's probably not very relevant to the Power Sword, but, you know, it's still very good. Turn off Power Sword for 1v1 majors and you do alright. Yeah, see, this doesn't happen in lethal, man. This is exactly what I'm saying. Like, in a 1v1 with a major, why would I even care to do the mode? I'll just gunstrike them. See kind of my point here, you know? Yeah, that's why I think it needs a damage buff, just so the lines are a little more blurred between how you get the damage out of the weapon, or less, I mean, regardless of my saying, I just think it would make the weapon a little bit more consistent. If it is a gunstrike weapon, then it is what it is. I do think it has some neat utility because of exactly what this person and other commenters have pointed out. The gunstrike ability is pretty good with the Power Sword. It is pretty good. But so are fencing weapons, you know? So, I don't know. I just don't know if that should be the defining factor of the weapon. I think the defining factor of the weapon should be the fact that you should be able to switch in between modes but still get good DPS out of it. I guess maybe the other factor here is the fact that lethal can get so overwhelming. Some of just switching between modes just isn't very useful regardless. You know what I mean? Like, so what? You have a mode for minorist and a mode for majorist, but in lethal, it's basically the same thing. You're going to get swarmed regardless. So it's like you need the swarm mode, but majors are gonna not really care about that. You know what I mean? They're just gonna eat the damage there. I don't know. And then yeah, it just ages even worse when you think of Tyranid majors that just walk backwards and just shoot you with the sniper, and the Power Sword isn't budging them, whereas the combat knife probably would. And it's just like, maybe the Power Sword just needs more stun capabilities. Maybe that's it. Chaos, just stun, interrupt, keep them off balance, or put your shield up and let them shoot at you while your DPS focus them down. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Weird, kind of a, you know, off-subject note about Chaos there, but yeah. Yeah, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about the Power Sword. I know I ranted quite a bit in this video, but I have a lot to say about it because I was doing some, I was playing some Bulwark, so I don't know. A lot of thoughts just came to mind there. Yeah, let me know if I'm wrong on something. Let me know if you have a different approach to the Power Sword. Let me know if you think the Power Sword needs a buff as well. I have heard that before. Also, let me know if the gunstrike stick melee balance has gotten any better, because now that we do have blocking, you know, I'm having a lot of fun switching between blocking and fencing and balanced. So I noticed that I'm doing a lot more melee swings and stuff, so that's good. But I think that's why I'm getting more annoyed at the Power Sword. Sheesh. I really hope this weapon gets a buff, because it's a very cool weapon.